day. For today's video, we will be focusing on multiplying rational numbers. Our essential question is, how do you multiply rational numbers? We have one vocabulary term to review today, which is product, which is the answer to a multiplication problem. And as noted right here, when we're multiplying rational numbers, we can use the same rules that we know from when we multiply integers. So as a review, I have this table here. So a positive times a negative equals a negative. A negative times a positive equals a negative. A negative times a negative equals a positive. And a positive times a positive equals a positive. So again, here is our review. So with that, let's take a look at our first example. Gina hiked down a canyon and stopped each time she descended a half mile to rest. She hiked a total of 4 sections. What is her overall change in elevation? Now our first step with this problem is to write it out. But before I do that, I want to take a look at some keywords in this story problem. And I see one right here, descended. And when I see the word descended, it makes me think of a negative number. So she's descending a half mile. So that's a negative 1/2. And she does that 4 times. And we know multiplication is repeated addition. So it's 1/2 times 4. So negative 1/2 times 4. That is our problem. So now thinking about our rules for multiplication, we see that we have a negative times a positive, and that equals a negative. So now I'm just going to think, well, what is 1/2 times 4, or 1/2 of 4? And that is 2. So she hiked a total of 2 miles. But because she's going down, we have that represented as -2. Now what I'd like you to do is try this problem on your own. A section of beach erodes 3/4 meter per year. The beach eroded for 8 years. By how many meters did the length of the beach change? Go ahead, pause the video, and try this on your own. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to read it again, and I'm going to look for keywords. And I see that it's eroding 3/4 of a meter per year. So eroding means it's like washing away or decreasing in how thick it is. So that 3/4 is really a negative 3/4. And it's eroding 3/4 of a meter per year. Now that per year means it erodes 3/4 of a meter each year. So I've got negative 3/4 times 8. Now I'm going to write it out over here where I'm going to do my work, but I'm going to turn 8 into, into a fraction. So I've got negative 3/4 times 8/1. Now before I multiply across, which we know when we multiply fractions, we just multiply straight across, I'm actually going to cross reduce, which I can do with 4 and 8. 4 goes into itself 1 time, and 4 goes into 8 twice. So now when I multiply straight across, I see 1 times 1 is 1, and negative 3 times 2 is -6. So really I have -6/1, which is -6. Now for our second example, we're going to multiply with the same sign. So here we have -2 times -3.5. So again, going up to our table and reviewing our rules, a negative times a negative results in a positive. So we know that our answer is positive. And now I'm just going to write out my work. And here I'm multiplying with decimals. So 3.5 times 2 5 times 2 is 10, carry the 1. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And then I see here I have 1 digit after my decimal point, so I need to have 1 digit after my decimal point in my product. My answer is 7, and it is a positive 7. For our third and final example, here we're going to multiply 3 rational numbers together, and we have fractions. So we have negative 2/3 times negative 1/2 times negative 3/5. Now before I do any actual multiplying, this is where I'm going to look at the sign of my factors. So I have 3 negatives, so I know that a negative, this first negative times the second negative, so this first negative times the second negative, that's a positive, times the third negative, I know that my answer is going to be a negative. Now I'm going to go back and look at these fractions and see if I can do any cross-reducing. And I can, right here, I see 2 and 2. So if I divide 2 by 2, I get 1 and 1. And I can do the same here with 3. See, it doesn't matter if the fractions are not directly close to one another. We know that when we multiply, we can multiply in any order, so we can cross-reduce the same way. So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. Now when I multiply straight across, my numerators are 1 times 1 times 1, which is 1. 1 times 1 times 5, which is 5. And I have a negative 1/5 as my product. Now what I'd like you to do is try these 3 on your own. Again, and as always, if you have any questions, jot them down and we will discuss them tomorrow in class.